Hello. In the first video I attached to an email I sent to you, you got an overlook at how Canvas works. This video is going to go more in depth as to where you put the resources and how you organize the things you are uploading into your course within Canvas. You already know that most of the work is done in your modules. This is where we organize each session and include a structure so that a teacher has a clear guideline as to how to teach that course when they're having a class with their students. Let's take a look at session 1. You'll notice the first 3 are basic documents that you go over during a first class with the student. These are not things you need to touch when you're building your course. Learning objectives is the first thing in each session that you will need to address. This is where you set the standard for the class. The student should come in, have a discussion with their teacher based around these 3 elements that tells them what they're going to be learning in class today and set direction for the rest of the class period. The first thing you'll notice are Common Core standards. I've included a link that you can follow to read the standards for your subject. You also have an essential question. This is an overarching question that students will need to frame what they're learning in a larger context, evaluate information to come to some sort of understanding. Learning objectives are more concrete and specific. They're organized around a higher level thinking verb that dictate how the student is going to construct knowledge in a new way to gain a deeper understanding of the content that you are covering. I will include more information about all 3 of these in links attached to the reply box below this video. The next tab that you'll move on to are the assignments. Between the learning objectives and the assignments is where you will house all of the resources that would be covered in class that day. In order to do this, you click on the plus button, you choose whichever element you are using. Most often that will be a discussion. However, if you want to include an assignment that needs to be completed and indicate that that's a classwork assignment, you could do that as well. You'll notice that you can choose a new topic, give that a name. If we're reading a story in a language arts class, maybe I want to put the title to indicate that that's really what we're going to be focusing on. I'll move it under the learning objectives so that it sets the pacing for the course and get to work editing what this means. Let's say as part of reading this story, Turkeys, we're going to be covering some language arts objectives. In order to do that, I use the textbook the e-textbook that you're familiar with when you're teaching a course, and found some resources that are going to help cover the topics that the student needs to learn while reading this story. If you've already uploaded them, you'll find that document in course files, but more likely you'll be uploading a new file that you've saved to your computer. You'll see I have all these assignments for 6B because that's the course I'm creating. If I'm covering context clues, I want to attach this document that a student can complete to learn more about context clues. You'll see it just sets up a link right there. A student will be able to click on this link, download the document, type in their answers, or have a discussion with their teacher and resubmit the work if there's a completed task that they want to demonstrate their knowledge with. Something else you might want to consider is how many resources you want to store here. If you have several different ways that you could teach context clues, I recommend that you include all the different links here and indicate, this would be for an advanced student, this would be for a struggling student, so that a teacher, when they duplicate this course and use it for a particular student, can pick and choose which of those resources they think is best for that student. If you do not have multiple resources to teach a specific concept, like I only have this one for context clues, that's absolutely fine. Over time, we'll build our different resources so we can get to that place where differentiation is built in to our Canvas courses so that teachers can instruct specific students based on their learning needs. Before I save this, I'm going to want to make sure that I give a simple set of directions. For instance, open the link to learn more about context clues. We don't need to go into detail here, just make sure that the teacher and the student would be able to understand what they need to do based on the information you're giving them. You'll notice that as you're building these courses, in some sessions you're going to have many different tabs because you're covering quite a few topics within one session period. And other days, maybe you only have a few because you're going in depth about a certain topic. That is absolutely fine. These are going to vary from course to course, of course, but also from session to session. So work with what you have to build a class day that is going to house enough information for the teacher and the student to cover the topics they need to cover. And like I said, this is going to be a growing platform. So we'll continue to add resources to these shells as we grow over time. You'll notice that I've indicated different assignments for each session. These would be the homeworks that you assign that make up a portion of the student's overall grade. You're going to follow a very similar process as you did for that discussion I just showed you when you're building an assignment. You'll edit, give a brief explanation of the assignment, and again, follow the link if you have that there, going to Files, upload a new file, choose whatever it is that you might be working with. Once again, if you want to offer different ideas that could be assigned to give the teacher a choice, feel free to house them all in here. You don't need to be indicating the number of points at this part of the course creation, nor would you need to indicate the date that it's due, because this is something specific to a teacher and student class. So when the teacher is using this for a specific student, they'll be able to fill this out based on their unique schedule that they've established. An exciting aspect of Canvas that we're going to use a lot are incorporating rubrics. If you have an assignment that is going to be graded and you can find a rubric to guide teachers how to grade that assignment, you're going to want to include it here. I'll go into more specific detail in a different tutorial about how to create a new rubric within Canvas, but if you have one already that you can upload, you'll be able to find them here. So if I have a generic project rubric here, maybe I want to use that for them to grade this assignment. When a teacher opens this, they'll be able to actually click on these boxes and grade the student's project quickly with clear guidelines as to what indicates a passing grade on each of these assignments. The next thing in a module that you'll have to look at is the exit ticket. This is incorporated into each daily session so that students have a way to conclude a course. I've already written up a exit ticket question or statement for each of your class sessions, so this is not something you need to touch. But if you feel that you want to cover a specific topic based on what you've uploaded for classwork that day, feel free to change this question here. The last part of our session is the classwork check. This is going to make up the classwork grade over time. So two elements, the focus on classwork and the quality of work. In other words, did the student pay attention? Did the student try? The teacher will quickly decide how the student performed that day. Again, click the boxes and we'll be able to get a clear pacing of how they're working in class each day that makes up that overall course grade. I've already put each of these at the end of each session, so once again, this is not a tab that you're going to need to touch as you're building your specific courses. You'll repeat that process for each session that makes up an entire course. Something I do want to make sure you keep in mind as you're starting to work within the class that you're creating is the assessments. In my opinion, you should start with the assessments so you know exactly what it is the student's being graded on. or tested on, I should say, because that's really going to make a big difference in what you assign. So the first thing you should do is going through and filling in those assignments. Do we have assignments already created for this course? If not, where am I going to find them? Because that might really change what classwork and homework you put into each individual session. If you have questions based on the information I've covered here, please feel free to leave them in the reply boxes below. I'll make sure to reply to them as quickly as possible so that you have the information that you need to create the courses successfully. Thank you for all your hard work.